I will now talk for an inordinate amount of time about my 3 current hyperfixations. Tsukiyoshi Sakuya knows her time is nigh. Childhood friends and romantically interested in Nizuma Tsubaki, he has a stroke of bad luck that could be considered fatal in many instances. And one of the things she's gotten very, very good at is intercepting those instances and preventing them before they can prove to be fatal. Almost like she could see some kind of dark aura possessing him. And on this day, she takes a knife in the back that was clearly meant for Tsubaki, foreshadowed by both the namesake of the series and a scene at a shrine that took place prior to the stabbing. The dying girl makes a deal with a local deity, who then possesses her body and effectively revives her, but sticks around. And this guy seems all too overjoyed to have a mortal form. And while it's not entirely made clear in the original Japanese with the way pronouns work, this deity speaks in a very masculine tone and introduces itself as Byakuya, a white snake serving as a messenger of the gods. As it seems Byakuya has completely taken over the body of Sakuya, it's unclear whether or not Sakuya's soul still exists within her body, or if Byakuya displaced her soul after it took over. It, or rather she, because biologically female body now, then goes on to cut down the random stabber and claims to be a white snake that brings good fortune. As it's a divine being that has decided to possess a mortal form, not only has it amplified the original body's capabilities, but it possesses all of the memories of Sakuya. And later on she states that, quote, sooner or later, I will become Tsuyoshi Sakuya, so it seems that the white snake soul will actually completely meld with the girl's body in due time. It seems the white snake also has affections for Tsubaki, and one of the reasons it specifically approached Sakuya to inhabit is because it has the intention to wed him. Again, the series name alludes to this. The White Snake's Bridegroom, a supernatural high school romance drama of sorts. Surface things aren't what they seem. There is some kind of obsession going on both from Sakuya and Byakuya about Tsubaki. The white snake coming from a shrine that also has I guess you could call it a mouse divine messenger that they're at odds with. And this black cloud of bad luck that seems to follow Tsubaki no matter where he goes. It hooked me after Chapter 1. There is so much going on behind the scenes that has remained unexplained. I want to know what's going on with this. Sometimes Byakuya looks benevolent, sometimes it looks malevolent. Parts of Sakuya she kept hidden from Tsubaki that the god being is now making very apparent. Interference by said mouse deity, and overall it seems like it's a very young, relatively speaking, series. The series only started in 2024, and it looks like it's a monthly series because at present there are only 11 chapters. So there is a lot to look forward to for this series. In Japan, albino rat snakes are considered to be messengers of the gods and bringers of good fortune. In the city of Iwakuni in the Yamaguchi prefecture, they quite literally have a white snake museum and breeding facility. First recorded sightings as far back as Edo period, the species itself was only found in Iwakuni and registered as a nationally protected animal in 1972. So 300 years of legends of good luck from just seeing these creatures. And you can even purchase gold-plated charms that it's believed if you keep them in your wallet, it helps you with financial success in the future. I definitely want one of those charms just because, look at it. How could you say no to that? Second on the list is an isekai series. I know. Another isekai. But this is one of the more uncommon isekais that bear the 2 hallmarks of actual good writing to it. First of all, yes, the main character is overpowered, but the story explains why very quickly. And it's not some kind of God-blessed cheat ability. And second, it relies on absolutely zero JRPG tropes. You don't get menus, you don't get stat screens, you don't get skills and leveling up. This is a high fantasy world where the main character is, by some description, an isekai'd soul. And it's not like these are hard to find, they're just uncommon to find. 4 of my favorite isekais all follow the same style. They don't have JRPG tropes, and the main character is either overpowered with a decent explanation, or gets overpowered as time progresses. Or in 2 instances, they're not overpowered, like at all. They're actually pretty pathetic. And to name those 4 series, Tsukimichi, which has an anime, the manga is the superior product between the 3. The wrong way to use healing magic, Usato doesn't start out overpowered, he becomes overpowered. And personally, I think the novel is the best version of the 3. It's really funny. Like, unintentionally funny. An ideal gigolo life, because Zenjiro isn't overpowered at all, he's just a pencil pusher that's become a prince consort, and it's a lot of, like, Iron Age politicking, in a world where magic has very stringent rules to follow. It's getting an anime. And the 4th one being Nectar of Dorani, and I'm not going to explain too much about that one right now, because the writer of the series is Hiroyuki Yoshino, and if that name doesn't ring any bells, then maybe his other series, Quasar of Stigmata, does, and that should explain why I'm not exactly explaining it right now. But the isekai that I'm fixated on right now is this one, Reincarnated Devil's Plan for Raising the Strongest Hero. A long time ago, our main character was just a normal Japanese guy, and then he died and was sent to hell, reincarnated as a demon. Then after being in hell for a very, very long time, a fight between supreme deities ended up forcing him into a completely different world. Now going by the name Kakyu, the story opens with him first mowing down on some freshly slain dragon, and then returning to his home at the village of Joln. When he first arrived in the realm that is this world, he was, for all intents and purposes, a devil. He was going to deceive them, he was going to use them, and then he was just gonna run off with his gains. He was taken in by a family, Arnaud, his wife Joyce, and their daughter Alma. Through living a day-to-day life with these people, he slowly regained his human heart and human nature, then turning to trade as a merchant, often bringing back rare and exotic animals for the village to eat, specifically because Alma has always had a weak constitution and was predicted to die early. Well, that's not happening when she's being fed dragon. But Joyce is also pregnant, so her unborn child is also, technically, eating dragon. Arnaud asks Kakyu to go fishing with him. He needs to talk. The kingdom sent him a draft notice. He's going back to the army. Arnaud was originally a reserve soldier in the first place, and with the increased demon activity in the Ural kingdom, they need their soldiers. He asks Kakyu, if anything were to happen to him, that he would take care of Alma and ours. He already knows that his next child is gonna be a boy, and he's got a name for him. And even though Kakyu responds, I won't make any promises, he always keeps his promises. With Joyce's due date fast approaching, and Kakyu setting out for another trade expedition, just over a month in, he hears rumor that the Knights of the Clamiera Church Nation are out searching for devil activity. Every few years, the Church Nation is allowed a special exemption for their knights to go into the neighboring countries to root out demons in hiding, which would be fine if that's all they did. But apparently rumors have circulated that the knights take advantage of normal people who can't detect demons. They falsely accuse villages and villagers just to take from them. Kakyu, being a devil, he gets a spider sense, and he rushes back to Joln hoping for the best. But what he finds is a village on fire. Everything's gone. Everyone's dead. And using his devil powers, he's able to see what actually took place. The knights had showed up, and whether or not they could detect Kakyu being at the village was irrelevant. His family, this village, was not about to turn him over to these knights. Once again, using his devil powers and embracing the rage, he quite literally makes a statement and nukes them. He's slowly giving in to his nature as a devil once again, but the soul of Alma pushes him towards the one thing that could be saved, her brother. He takes the child, promises to raise him as his own, and we get something ominous. As the supreme deity of heaven states, what irony, that child is going to kill him in the future. Kakyu moves to a completely different continent and tries to establish a new life for him and his now son. He buys a slave and takes her as his wife because his son needs a mother. Her name is Urza. She used to be an assassin for a king. They adopt an orphaned red dragon who is basically raised like R's younger brother. His name is Bors. And after a kidnapping attempt on the still juvenile dragon, it's not so small anymore at this point, but hey, the guys who wanted him in the first place came to take him back, leads to crushing I guess you could call it a revolutionary group that really hates the elves. Culminating in Kakyu getting not only a barony, but the right to hold land, after stating his goal is to make a home for his son and wife. It starts with an extreme tragedy and just keeps piling misery on top of misery on top of misery and becomes oddly wholesome in a kind of village building sense. Joln was a village of outcasts that took him in and returned him to the kind of person he was before he became a devil. And he wants to give that kind of place to the people that have been brought to him or brought in by him. A homeland to return to. Kakyu as a character, he can't completely hide his devil nature. Though people who aren't in the know tend to play it off as him just being a kind of shady merchant type character, even though he really isn't a shady merchant at all. He's incredibly honest. But once in a while, there comes a character who can see a little bit more than they should, and they notice. For Urza's part, she's a criminal slave on attempted regicide. In a political power play, one of the princes decided that he was going to deceive her into attempting to kill the reigning king, who had also consequently raised her like one of his own children. This weighs so heavy on Urza that after the initial offer of Kakyu to buy her so she can be R's mother, she turns him down. And this is one of the reasons why I think Kakyu is a really well-defined character. He has experience, both as a merchant and as a devil. He knows exactly what to say to fix someone. And because he still has his human heart, he does it for their good. Urza never tells Kakyu what crime she actually commit, but he uses his devil magic to look into her soul and get an idea of what's going on. And after knowing that she holds a deep affection for children, he decides he really must have her. So he says to her, Urza, earlier you said you aren't qualified to become a mother, but I don't think so. I don't know what crime you have committed, but I know that those hands of yours that are supposed to be stained with sins have saved a lot of people's lives. I don't know what you think of yourself, but to me, that's everything. Even after you experienced mistakes, you still risked your life to do what's right, and I need that power of yours, for me and ours. Urza has framed herself as constantly trying to atone for her past mistake, and the moment she tries to use it as an excuse, Kaku rebuts her. Is constantly being punished what you consider your atonement? Is doing such a thing really the atonement you want? Those lines go so hard it break her. And then after restating the offer, she considers it and then agrees to it. These characters all have very obvious flaws, and they're addressed, and they grow from them. Character growth is such a rare thing in Western media, you really appreciate it when you see it. Even Kakyu has character growth as the series progresses. It's got a very charming level of drama and silly and world building in this way that I don't fully grasp why it has my attention so well, but I really enjoy it. It is one of the isekais that I can just flat out recommend to people. And many of the characters are super expressive, especially Bors, who doesn't really talk, he just kind of growls, but he's both expressive and vocal enough, which makes him an enthralling character. And it helps that there's a later character introduced who actually can speak with dragons. so we get a more concrete idea of what he's actually saying. Now for the series that I am most invested in at the moment. Both its name and its premise are deceptively small. The Witch and the Mercenary. The reason this series has captured me so thoroughly is twofold. First, the world building is a slow burn. It doesn't try to dump a lot of stuff on you all at once and then hope you remember it later. You get bit here and bit here and bit here and bit here and bit here. It will only explain to you what is necessary when it's necessary. It's great for mystery. It's great for theory crafting. It's great for fan base dialogue. And even when it does give you explanations, there are times where it won't give you complete explanations. You're not getting a lore dump from somebody who knows everything about what's going on because they wrote it. You're getting whatever the character gets from their perspective, from their knowledge base, and that's it. So a lot of things end up getting said are just guesswork by the characters. I'll expand upon this later. The other reason is because the two main characters are so incredibly competent. They have blind spots, but they're both really, really good at what they do. They're not misplaced in a world that exists. They're just lost in it, but have the skills to find their way. But let's set the stage first before we get into that. Zig Crane is a mountain of a man, like Andre the Giant, but overwhelmingly buff because he's a mercenary, a fighter for hire. And today he's been hired to accompany a group of knights as the young son of a noble lord goes on a witch hunt. Literally. Little is known about witches except for that they're very long-lived, they have incredible magic, and they have a tendency to be extremely violent when you enter their territory. Zig has never fought a witch before, so he takes it all as rumors. The hunting band comes across a shack in the woods. Looks like it's made out of mud. Outside of the shack stands a witch, but they don't recognize her as a witch. She looks just like a young woman to anyone else. One of the knights is ordered to fire an arrow at her feet to scare her off. They don't want any civilians caught in their hunt. But before he can, she raises her hand, mumbles something, and Zig immediately smells a very pungent odor coming from the earth below him. Thinking quickly, he hops into a tree, and moments later, spikes erupt from the ground, skewering at least half of the hunting band in an instant. It looks like a Kornite killing field. Then they recognize that she is the witch. The mercenaries flee. The knights try to rally, but they are completely outmatched. This witch specializes in earth magic. She can create barriers to block their arrows. She can create golems which go on to smush and destroy the remaining knights. And then Zig rushes into battle. Because he is a melee combatant and she's a mage, he realizes she has no experience in close quarters. He takes advantage of it, and after weathering a second volley of earthen spikes, gives a charge and brings her to her knees. Then, she starts to talk. Why do you kill people? They were going to kill me, so I killed them. Nothing more. It makes no difference to me whether you people live or die. Does that answer your question? She asks for pity, saying she is actually the victim here because the knights came to hunt her down. In this instance, I would actually have to agree. She did not aggress them first, they came after her. But she gives up on that notion pretty quickly and just tells him to kill her. Zig has an introspective moment. He realizes that this witch and himself are basically the same kind of person. No one cares if they die. He withdraws his blade and begins to walk away. And the witch seems incensed by this, thinking that he is pitying her. Zig points to one of the bodies, says, "He's my client, the Domain Lord's son. A dead client isn't about to pay me any reward. And I don't work for free either. Couldn't you just get a reward for my head anyway?" And Zig, very rationally, fires back. Imagine this. You gave your precious son an army, and he went off to hunt a witch, but the only person to come back was some mercenary, a schmuck from who knows where. Your son and his huge army of soldiers died. I don't have any witnesses. My proof is this head of a witch that no one's ever seen before. Only I survived and managed to kill her. Please reward me. And if I said that, what do you think would happen to me? The witch knows exactly what'll happen to him, but asks, and you're okay with this? Zig responds, it doesn't matter if I'm okay with it. I'll take any job, and I won't do anything to betray my client. But I'm under no obligation to report something at the cost of my own life. The squad was wiped out. The witch hunt failed. The witch then creates a fiction that the witch hunt was a success and she was never seen again. And she asks Zig to protect her. He asks why, and she says, I'm tired of it all. No matter how many times I drive them off or how many times I move away, they always come after me. I've had enough. So I want you to take me to a place where no one will ever bother me again. Zig recognizes the look in her eyes, but he says, sorry, but I'm not concerned with your reasons. The witch, taking that as a rejection of her offer, is interrupted as Zig continues. What I am concerned about is whether or not you can pay me for the job. Can you pay me? She takes out a huge gemstone, but neither of them really know what it's worth. And now that an agreement has been struck, they set their destination, crossing the sea to another continent. The continent they're on is very antithetical to magic users and very much so likes to hunt witches, seeing them as either heretical or just highly dangerous, depending on which country you're in. The witch reasons it might be better to take my chances with the unknown. And after introducing himself, she tells us her name, Siasha. And that's how their story begins. Siasha herself is actually, I would say, a magic savant, but knowing her approximate age, it's probably mostly just very well educated rather than any kind of special or unique ability, probably racial, with her being a witch. Because witch is very much so different than everyone else in this world. On the boat ride over, she actually asks Zig how he managed to detect and dodge her earth spikes, and he says something about being able to smell magic. Siasha gives a brief explanation on what she thinks is going on. Keyword, thinks. Upon crossing the ocean and dealing with some of the local wildlife, they encounter a little farming village and find people using magic. And this overjoys the witch. Siasha becomes an adventurer to make a living, and Zig becomes her bodyguard because she needs it sometimes for her own safety. And we start getting introduced to recurring side characters. Alan and his party, a blindfolded woman named Alicia who really doesn't like Zig, nor does he like her, the local mafia groups Bazalta and Cantalera, and the Jinsu Ya, which are effectively Japanese elves, of which the two most recurring, or at least the two who have names, are Isana and Raika. The Wadatsumi clan and their drama that introduces more side characters, the Greenscale tribe lizardmen. This is an incredibly full, high fantasy world with all sorts of characters just making it feel alive. One of the most interesting things about Siasha, though, is how she has this shift between times where she looks like I want to say like a late 20s woman and a late teens woman, depending on her mood. She gets very, very possessive of Zig. I don't think he's noticed yet, but she gives him looks. And as far as the story goes, it's almost like a slice of life in a high fantasy world, because it's not normal, because it's a high fantasy world with magic and monsters you probably don't dream of. But the story itself is just people, like normal people living out their daily lives in this world, dealing with the drama that comes by. Sometimes that drama includes other people or adventurers, and sometimes it includes monsters. Siasha often shows her emotions on her face, plain as day, while Zig is very stoic, except for the incredibly sturdy truth bombs he drops once in a while. During a job for the Jinsu Ya, he meets Raika, who gets off on being a manhunter. And he does the very based thing of addressing his mentality, where he could either go on and be like a psychopath who just does what he wants, consequences be damned, or the path that Rika took, refusing and suppressing these impulses, and then turning it into a job because, quote, there are people in this world that no one cares if you kill. If anything, many people would thank you for doing the dirty work for them. No one's going to complain if you kill lowlives as a hobby while also making a profit. During the Wadatsumi incident, he drops another based truth on Mirina. They end up running into each other while out on a jog, him of course in full armor as part of his routine, and he tells her he thinks she's quite skilled. She asks if that's sarcasm and he says not at all. Those with talent are quick to improve, but talent doesn't make your body strong. That requires hard work. The more talented someone is, the harder it is for their body to keep up with the improvements. He also drops hard lines on Siyasha more than once. In one of the more recent chapters, Siyasha actually asks him, "Is it so bad to be different from other people? Isn't it strange? I'm living my life with no problems, and yet demi-humans get picked on just because they look a little different." And based Zig kicks in again. He says, "Don't bother. That question has no meaning. Nobody can choose what year or country they're born in, not even their race for that matter. The same goes for you and me. What will change from knowing the answer to your question? Will anything change by understanding the true nature of people? Nothing will be different, which means the answer is meaningless. The world will never change to accommodate you, no matter how much you don't like it. So you have no choice but to change yourself. Or will you ignore everything and live on your own just like how you used to?" He's such a well-designed character. He is deceptively two-dimensional until he drops a truth bomb, and then you're like, wait a minute. And then he's back to work mode as soon as that moment's over. This series is fantastic. I recommend anyone who likes to read comics to read The Witch and the Mercenary. It really doesn't get nearly as much love as it should. There are about 50 chapters out depending on what language you're reading it in, so there is a lot to read through, and all of it is very, very good. And those are my 3 current hyperfixations, the series that I read and reread often, hoping for more. I want more. I need more of these 3 stories. I need more of them, and I need them quickly. But you can't rush perfection. You can't rush quality. So I'm stuck waiting. And maybe you'll like one of these 3 series too. I am the NBT. This has been the Noble Weeaboo. Like or don't, sub or don't, I just wanted to talk about some manga.